I'm Jessica Hodge. I'm the Chief Executive of Emmaus Bristol, and I've been working here for 4.5 years, and I live in Bristol as well. Emmaus Bristol is one of 27 Emmaus communities in the UK and one of, I don't actually know the number, maybe 300 worldwide. And it's a movement that was founded by a guy called Abbé Pierre, who was a kind of radical resistance fighter and MP in France. And he established the first Emmaus community in France after the Second World War because there was a desperate need for housing. And very practically, he just opened up his house to people that needed a home, and then they just started building homes with kind of scant regard for planning permission. But yeah, there was just this very can-do attitude, and his whole thing was that people shouldn't be passive recipients of charity. And so he encouraged people to work alongside him to help those more in need. And that kind of element of solidarity is a big part of Emmaus. So here in Bristol, we do provide a home, support and work experience for as long as it's needed to people that have been homeless. But we also provide pay what you can furniture, pay what you can afford furniture, to people in the local community that maybe can't afford essential household items. And then we also sell glorious vintage furniture to people that can afford lovely things. And it's that work that sustains the charity. What we plan to do on the roof is to add between 7 and 19 move-on homes. And the reason we don't know the exact number yet is because, first of all, we haven't got planning permission yet. And second of all, we don't know how many we can afford to build. And the reason we need move-on homes is that although we provide a home for as long as it's needed in our community buildings, there are a lot of people that we support that really want their own place and they're ready to move on and they're ready for a lot more independence. And there's nowhere for them to move on to because there is a total lack of available social housing, and the private rental market is really inaccessible. It's very competitive, it's very expensive, and people might not have a great credit rating, or they might not have references, landlord references and things like that. There are a lot of barriers to moving on. So we thought it would be super easy to just put some homes on the roof, and then people, Emmaus Bristol companions leaving the community could move into their own home on the roof and be part of the Emmaus Bristol community still. There are two main reasons we want to build on the roof, and the first is that this is our roof, and if you look around at the space that we've got here and try and imagine how much it would cost to buy that land, quite clearly we couldn't afford it, so it makes much more sense for us to try and build on a building that we already own. And the second reason is that community is so important, and in Emmaus Bristol a lot of the people that we support live in a community house with shared facilities, and the Emmaus community is a really important part of recovering from homelessness. So to have move-on houses here on our main building means that people can live independently at the same time as still being connected to Emmaus Bristol and still being connected with the community. Well, that's a really good question, and I'm not sure I can answer it. So we have a splendid team of architects and engineers working on that stuff for us. So the idea came about when we were talking to Craig White about doing an eco-pod, which we are gonna have as a holiday rental, as one of our social enterprises. And I said, do you think we could put these on the roof? And he said yes. And so that was the kind of seed of the idea, and we got some funding in from Homes England to do a feasibility study and apply for planning permission. So what we were hoping is that we could put these TAMs just on the roof without too much extra work, and it turns out that wasn't really possible. We couldn't get enough information about how the building was engineered, the existing building. So their engineer solution was to basically make a kind of steel platform that the TAMs will sit on top of, so that the weight isn't going directly on the roof. But other than that, I can't really tell you practically how it's going to work. It's just, it is going to work and it's going to be brilliant. The TAM is really interesting because it's a eco build. That's my primary interest. So we don't want to do anything that's worse for the environment than a standard build. We want to do something that's better for the environment than a standard build, and this is it's materials that you can kind of understand. It's timber, it's straw, it's natural, it has a really nice feel, and also the fact that it's very low energy in use means that it will be affordable for people that have been homeless. So the energy bills and the water bills will be very, very small. And that's really important. The fact that I think modern methods of construction are really important because this is a city centre site. There's building work going on all around us. And we don't have much space to work in. So the fact that the TAMs are constructed to a certain extent off-site and then brought in is pretty space saving. And also we have to be able to run this building while the building is going on, because if we had to close our shop, for example, for a year while we built, that would shut off a really important revenue stream for the charity and also the work experience for companions, which is the whole reason we do what we do. So yeah, it's quite a practical solution for us rather than necessarily a desire to be innovative for the sake of being innovative. It just works with the space we've got. COVID-19 and the lockdown affected us really in the same way that it affected everybody, in that we had to very rapidly adjust to an entirely new way of living and working. We had to close all of our shops because of lockdown, and that cut off our revenue. So we were losing $5,000 a week for the whole time that the shops were closed. And it also meant that companions didn't have somewhere to go to every day to work, and that is so important for self-esteem. So there were some things that we could do, like while the shops were closed. Zan, our social enterprise manager, worked with 2 companions in a socially distanced way to redecorate our main shop, which now looks completely fabulous. And so, there were opportunities there as well, but it was definitely a difficult time. And we use Outcome Star as a way of measuring an individual's progress towards a range of objectives. And we definitely saw a decline in mental health scores over lockdown, which are now starting to rebuild. And obviously there was also personal impact on the staff team, in that we were having to manage a charity in very different circumstances and try and support people in very different circumstances. And yeah, I think we found that coming back from lockdown was almost more stressful than locking down, because at the start of lockdown we just did what the government told us to do, whereas reopening brought a whole heap of risk assessment and extra work, which is still ongoing. So we're not there yet. I think that homelessness has been very much in the public awareness for a long time, but the fact that we were being told to stay at home and to not socialise with people outside of your household and to self-isolate if you had any symptoms really revealed that most people who are homeless can't do that. We were okay because the majority of the bedrooms that we have, people have their own toilet and shower in a little ensuite, and I think we already felt that was really important for dignity, but COVID has shown that it's really also really important if you're going to get through a pandemic safely, and I suppose it really strengthened my feeling that our move on homes should be individual homes within a community rather than an HMO style accommodation, and that's what people want anyway. Like, we support a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They don't want to be going into a shared house. They want to be going into their own little place where they can shut the door. And it's more expensive for us to do that, but I think it's really important, and COVID has shown how important that is, that you've got your own front door that you can shut and be safe. Kind of non-practical reasons for wanting to build on the roof are that it's just completely fabulous up here. Like, it's really amazing. You get a lovely view across the city. It looks really wonderful. The sky seems really big, and you get that view of the sky that you don't usually get in the city centre, which I find really uplifting. So I hope that the people that will live here will feel that as well. It's a really good question, and it's going to be quite a personal answer, and I think it's going to be different for everybody. But a big part of community for me is knowing your neighbours, is knowing the people that live around you. And I used to work at BedZ, which is a really innovative eco development in South London, and I did the monitoring of that development after people had been living there for 7 years. And one of the things that we found were that the people who lived in BedZ knew around 10 of their neighbours by name, whereas the people in the surrounding community knew 4 of their neighbours by name. And that wasn't an accident, that had been designed in. So the development was built with walkways, with gardens, with shared community space. People were discouraged from having a car, and the car parking was on the perimeter of the development. And then when you look at a lot of new build now, it's very car centric. And I struggle to see how in that environment you can build community. Where I live, it's actually on a fairly busy road, but the community is out the back. So we talk to each other over our garden fences, and there's also a strange little unadopted road at the back, which is a kind of informal community space. And I have my allotment nearby, which is another community space. But you have to provide the space for people to use it. Community doesn't just happen by magic. You have to create space for it. And in Emmaus Bristol, we do create a really great sense of community. We're all working together. A lot of people live together as well. So the trick for us is going to be, how do we maintain that community when people are living in their own homes? And that's the reason that it's so important that we don't just build up with individual flats coming off corridors, because there wouldn't be any shared space, but to have the individual pods or TAMs around a communal courtyard or garden does create that space to be together if you want to, as well as the ability to be alone if you want to do that as well. I find that city centres and urban areas can have really amazing sense of community, because people are walking around and they can chat to each other, and you get to know people, and even just coming into work every day, you get to know by recognition the people that arrive at their offices at the same time as you, and things like that. And that, I think that sense of recognition is really important. Even down to the person that makes your coffee, because you go to the same coffee shop all the time, and all of that stuff, I think makes it actually quite easy to build communities in cities if you design out cars and create space for people to come together. The downside really is that this is really hard to do. It's a lot harder than buying a plot of land and paying someone to build some houses on it. It's a lot more complicated. The engineering's more complicated, and it will be a more complicated build because we need to be in the building at the same time. But I hope that those will be interesting challenges rather than insurmountable obstacles, and that we can share how we did it to encourage other people to build up as well and make use of their rooftops. So we're a pretty small charity, and we do rely a lot on pro bono support and expert volunteers. We're really lucky at the moment that we've been offered support from someone who does major project management of construction projects, so that's really great. And I don't yet know what other expertise we will need, but I'm pretty sure there are going to be other areas. And we also had a volunteer help us do the financial modelling as well, and we were helped by Cranfield to do that as well. And we will definitely be doing some kind of public fundraising at some point when we know what the costs are and when we know how much we can get in through grants and how much we can fund ourselves through our reserves. So yeah, I guess some kind of crowdfunding campaign or something like that where people can give what they can afford to help other people into permanent homes. Yeah, so watch this space. If people want to know more, the best thing to do is to sign up to our newsletter, which you can do on our website. And we will also periodically update our Facebook and Twitter pages as well. So you'll be able to see the progress of the development. My personal interest in the Housing Festival is really that it marries my the two kind of focuses of my career so far. So I've worked in environmental sustainability and now in housing and homelessness. And I think the Housing Festival does a good job of bringing those things together. And I'm really interested in innovation in housing because clearly the system that we have is not working for so many people. And it's just really exciting to see what other people are doing. My job is pretty busy. I don't have that much time for reading or for going out and seeing other projects. So to have a festival that brings everything together and I can just magically become aware of all the other innovation that's happening is really good. It's really exciting.